We're going to dive back into the book of Proverbs. It's an exciting book, really. I've always wanted to study it. So when I took on just preaching through it, it's been an absolute pleasure because from every chapter, I've got this one verse that I've kind of carried with me. Maybe you do the same thing, but I got one for every single chapter so far, and it just guides me. I see it like through daily life, real life. But before we get started, I just want to share a story that I heard this week. And it was pretty profound for me on a personal level, especially after Easter was celebrated. The story goes like this. There was this soldier that was outside of the White House weeping. He was just on the ground. He was crying. He was in a broken place. And this little boy comes up to him and he asks him what's wrong. And he says to him he's got a huge problem, but he really needs to speak to the president, but he can't get into him. He can't access him. And this little boy then takes the soldier by the hand and he says, "Come, follow me." So the soldier stands up and he stretches his hand out, and the little boy is just leading him. The little boy leads him past the security gates at the front. No one stops them. The little boy leads him across the lawn of the White House. Nobody stops him. Then they enter through the front door and nobody stops them. Sure enough, they make their way through the White House and they enter into the office of the president, and nobody stops them. And the little boy with his soldier next to him, he's holding his hand, he walks him right into the office of the president and he says, "Dad, this soldier was outside of the White House crying and he needs to talk to you." And such is a story, apparently true, where Abraham Lincoln's son had brought in a soldier. It's interesting because we take this parallel of we need God, we need this relationship with Him, we have needs, we have prayer requests, we have deep yearnings, and then Jesus leads us to the Father. And every single person who believes in Jesus Christ has this relationship where they can be led directly to the Father. And Jesus says, "Father, your child has a request." He intercedes for us on our behalf. The Spirit of God intercedes for us on our behalf. So whatever your prayer is today, whatever your need is today, God hears it. The Spirit of God is interceding for you. God hears you. God knows what's on your mind right now. He knows what's on your heart right now. He knows your deepest pains. He knows your prayer requests. He knows who you're praying for. It is all laid bare before the Lord. And He has not forgotten about you. Believe it. Act on it. I think that's one of the beautiful things. God already makes a way. God already provides. God already has His right timing. He just expects us to do our part. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in to the book of Proverbs again. We're going to be in chapter 7. Before we move forward into chapter 7, I want to do a very brief recap. These pillars that we've kind of been working on, they kind of start from the bottom. And that was for us defining what wisdom is. And we all have heard the verse many times that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And we can talk a little bit more about what that's going to be like. But in order for us to find wisdom, it's not something that we stumble upon. It's not something that happens to us. It's something that needs to be sought after. It needs to be sought after like a hidden treasure. Like something that is so valuable, like more valuable than gold, more valuable than silver, more valuable than any earthly thing that you can obtain. You should search for it. And that was the call of chapter 2. And chapter 3 was, okay, if I have wisdom laid bare before me, if I have the favor of God, if I have God's love through Jesus Christ already portrayed to me, I need to do my part and trust in the Lord with all of my heart. Because look, if I want to have the wisdom of God, I find it, now I need to lean into it. Now I don't lean on my own understanding, I lean on that wisdom of God. Has anyone ever heard a really good sermon and then you just kind of go, maybe a good sermon, maybe you heard an amazing quote, maybe someone gave you amazing counsel and you go, "Wow, blew my mind, incredible," and you do nothing with it. Have you done that? I have. Whoa, that was so good. I'm going to go back to my life now. It's easier that way. Like, we love jumping from amazing insight to amazing insight, wisdom to wisdom, Great parable to parable, sermon to sermon. But then the moment we actually go, oh wow, what if I applied this? What would happen in my life? What would change? How would I transform? So chapter 3 was really like, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. That's really the catalyst for the change. Chapter 4, towards the end, it had this phrase, do not turn to the left or to the right. Oh, I apply that so often, especially in marriage. Don't look to the left, don't look to the right. Just you for me, my bride. God doesn't want us to look to the left, look to the right, to idols, to anything that would distract us. We know where we're going. We know who we are. We are on a mission. We are married to one and we're moving in that direction. Don't look to the left or to the right. Maybe that's a verse that you need, someone needs in this room. Oh no, I've kind of been looking to the left. I've been looking to the right. Straight ahead. I'm a one-woman man. Number 5, chapter 5, we spoke about the need for purity. The need for purity in our marriages, personal purity, because there is an attack. And it's even more easier and easy to access things that lead to a lot of brokenness in marriages. A lot of marriages are struggling because of issues when it comes to lust, to impurity, to porn, and such. We talked about that. And chapter 6, I didn't speak on it. We had a guest speaker, David. But there's 7 things that God hates that were discussed. And then for me personally on chapter 6, the thing that stood out most was actually verse 6. If you remember the chapter, at one point it talks about an ant. I just want to read this quick phrase for you because, again, this is like my key verse from that chapter. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in the summer and gathers her food in the harvest. Oh, how long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise in your sleep? A little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber. That one image, a little rest, a little folding of the hands. Like I totally have this image when I think of chapter 6, because laziness is one thing to talk about it in the context of work. Every one of us should work hard because the Bible tells us to, whatever we do, we should do it to the best of our abilities. We should have thriving businesses here at Revival Church. We should have promotions here at Revival Church. We should have people who are striving to excel and have leadership positions. Why? Because as you strive, as you push, as you try to the best of your ability for the glory of God, recognition will come. Unlike many who grew up in Soviet Union, just speaking to parents, speaking to grandparents, it was different. Being a believer cut you off from advancements in your careers. You couldn't go to college. Like we have a beautiful opportunity to rise up and to lead and to be generous with our finances as well. But laziness and hard work in general, it's not just about our work. It's about getting up and playing with your kids. It's reading with your child and counseling them and loving on them. It's being romantic towards your spouse and creating a fun date, whatever it is. It's not just waiting and expecting someone to do something for us, but it's us taking initiative and being proactive in this thing called life. Being proactive in getting up 30 minutes earlier for some communion with the Lord. Getting up and pushing our bodies, pushing our minds, applying what we've learned, creating a journal where I can take note of the things that God is doing in my life. Pulling out my cell phone and calling some people proactively and just blessing them. Just blessing. Or texting them. You know what? I'm going to text 5 people this week. I just want to bless them in the name of Jesus. This all is coming under that umbrella of, I'm going to be like that ant. I'm not going to, wait for someone to tell me what to do. I want to be responding to the Spirit of God. I want to provide for my family. I want to work hard. So for chapter 6, that was, for me, my personal application. And today we're going to be in chapter 7, which sounds like it's a continuation of chapter 5, but I want to reveal it in 4 points that it absolutely has to do with purity, but I believe it is applicable to many, many facets of our lives. And then if you'll remember, we had this little image. The first 9 chapters of the book of Proverbs, they seem like they're letters from a father to a son. And the fear of the Lord, or the gaining of wisdom, is from this word chachma, which is skill or applied knowledge. It's one thing to know a lot, and we know people that know a lot, and we might also know a lot about a certain topic. But wisdom is the ability to actually take that knowledge and apply it in real life. And that's really the goal here in Proverbs, and really everything that we do in our devotionals, in our listening of podcasts and sermons, but also education. Anybody here goes to community college, high school, middle school, any kind of school? We would have nobody that goes to school here. Okay, we have some, all right, there we go. We have some people that go to school. So imagine if you went to school and you never applied anything. I mean, sometimes you feel like you can never apply anything. I've had some interesting courses at WSU. But with that being said, imagine if you went on something very specific, though. Let's say it's even being a nurse, and you just never applied it. You just never took it seriously, never had clinicals, and never, had an opportunity to test it, so to say. It would be very sad because you have all this knowledge, but it's not really applied knowledge. It's not wisdom. We want to have wisdom that's practical and touches our everyday lives. And then the beginning of that is really the fear of the Lord. It's this reverence and this awe. It's this moral mindset, a humbling of ourselves before God, which allows us then to trust Him and to lean on Him, not on our own understanding. And then there are these two parallels from the first 9 chapters. The top one and the bottom one, you'll see there in the black. Having the wisdom and the fear of the Lord leads to virtue, integrity, generosity, which leads to success and peace. Whereas the opposite is there's folly and there's evil, and those who pursue that, there's going to be selfishness, there's going to be pride, which is really what builds up from the flesh, which leads to ruin and shame. So in essence, we want to look at the end result. Do I want success and peace? Or do I want ruin and shame? And I think every person here knows exactly which one that they would choose. And the one of wisdom, having wisdom, the fear of the Lord, it takes application. It means applying ourselves. It means pushing ourselves beyond what we're comfortable with. So if you're comfortable today, get uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you know you're uncomfortable, you're feeling like you're being stretched, you feel like there's this pain, you feel like you're responsible for people, that's all really good stuff. It means you're growing, you're stretching. You're becoming a better version of yourself. You're becoming the version that God wants you to be, which is someone who's useful for His kingdom. Someone that's full of wisdom that is applicable. So let's dive in. We have 4 points, as mentioned. The first one is a warning. It really begins there. I'm not going to read the entire chapter right away. We're going to break it down, and we're going to read it verse by verse, and we're going to talk about it. So the first 4 verses, I'm going to go ahead and read them. My son, keep my words and treasure up my commandments with you. Keep my commands and live. Keep my teaching as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call insight your intimate friend. We can see that this first portion gives us multiple points that show how important, how vital it is to have this wisdom. And they're broken down like this. Keep my words, act on them. Treasure my commands, prioritize them. Keep my teachings, act on them. Bind them on your fingers, make them a part of your day. Make them applicable, make them useful. Write them on the tablets of your heart, savor them, enjoy them, treasure them. Be relational with wisdom. Call it your intimate friend. Do you see all these words? Do you see the first 4 verses? They're so relational. It's like wisdom is calling out for our attention, saying, there's a huge warning. You can go either way. It can be success or it can be folly. It can be pleasure and joy and goodness, or it can be destruction. And he's saying, just keep my words and treasure them up. They're going to guide you. They're going to protect you. They're going to be useful for you, towards you. But that's not all, because we have this promise that follows. If you do this, here's what happens right here within these 4 verses. Keep my commandments and you will live. Life, like life to the fullest. Keep my commandments and you will live. You can walk in freedom. You can walk in joy. You can walk in success. You can walk. You can really run, actually. You can live rather than being weighed down by sin, rather than being weighed down by brokenness or the destruction that you are creating around you. You can really live. And I think every one of us knows people in our lives, they're not living. They're just going day to day. There's destruction that follows them because decisions are being made. And we reap the fruit of our labor. The things that we've planted, they continue to follow us. And maybe there's someone in this room saying, oh man, I'm reaping some things I didn't realize that would come. I didn't realize those seeds planted would follow me here. And there's hope for this story of yours, a before and after. So there's this relationship, there's this warning, there's this need to prioritize it. You are my sister. You are my intimate friend. Oh, wisdom, like I need you ever so near every day of my life. I want to live. Keep my teaching as the apple of your eye. Keep my teaching as the apple of your eye. So there's this warning as mentioned now, and I want us to have this one application point right away. Because I think every single one of us knows someone who saw a warning, it was flashing, but they did not listen. And the reason why I say that is because it's easy to be in the church and be like, oh, I love Jesus, we're gonna sing our hymns, we're gonna leave this place, everybody's looking great, you're all dressed beautifully, you look wonderful, and then, we leave this place, but there's so much destruction and brokenness. And we don't have to look far. We can look in our own extended families or immediate families. There's someone that the Spirit of God might be putting on your heart right now to pray for. Or maybe you've been praying for this person. God, I have someone right now that I've been praying for, worried about this person, made some bad decisions, but really wants to get free. Like really, really does. This person's living in a very broken situation. But this person knows of Jesus. But addiction has captured this person. So I'm praying that God frees, liberates, and gives joy. Who are you praying for today? I want you to think of that person right now. And maybe write it down on the notes of your iPhone. Or maybe just remember that name and begin praying over this person. Maybe fast for this person tomorrow. This one person that the Spirit of God has just put a spotlight on in your life. Someone that did not heed to the warnings and now is living in destruction. Right where you are, can you just say a prayer for them? That one person that the Spirit of God just put on your heart. And I want to challenge you. I would challenge you to do it now, but then you might get distracted because I get distracted like that when my phone is out. But after the service, or maybe during the service, just message them. SMS, hey, I was thinking about you, love you, praying that the Lord bless you. I'm here for you. Just a sweet word of, just affirmation that I'm here for you. There's hope in Jesus. Isn't that what it's all about? That we have not just that we thrive individually, but that our life is used to bring others out of the darkness and into the light. Now, if we continue on here after this warning where it says, prioritize it, like really treasure it up, like keep these commandments, act in them. I love the analogy of the fingers, like bind them around your fingers as you go about your everyday life. Make it so applicable that you're acting on it. And then there's the second portion of our text today from verse 5. There's the compromise. And I'll read that to you. To keep you, and notice the words to keep you. He's saying, do this, follow these things, treasure them, bind them around your, call it your sister, call it your intimate friend, to keep you. Now it says specifically from the forbidden woman, but let's just expand that today. From the forbidden woman is one thing. From the forbidden man is another thing. From the forbidden substance is another thing. From the forbidden website is another thing. Whatever it is, whatever darkness creeps around the corners of your life, to keep you from this, to keep you from that speech, to keep your mindset, to keep you from that posture of your heart, whatever it is, to keep you. Now I'm going to read up to verse 9. To keep you from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words. For at my window I have looked out through my lattice, and I have seen among the simple. I have perceived among the youths a young man lacking sense, passing along the street near her corner, taking the road to her house. In the twilight, in the evening, at the time of night and darkness. Now, do you see this case study, this analogy that we get to follow? And there's this invitation to almost look out the window along with wisdom. Because that's exactly what's happening. For at the window of my house, I've looked through these slides in the window, and I can see. And in fact, it's highlighting that it's dark. It's highlighting that no one is outside except for this one simple youth. Simple meaning a person who did not apply wisdom. A person that is pursuing folly or just lacks it, just doesn't want it, maybe even rejects it. Seen it, heard it, talked about it, exposed to it. Nah, I want this. Not realizing the consequences of what is happening. But this young youth, as they look through the window in the darkness, because a lot of evil happens in the darkness. A lot of evil happens specifically in the darkness when no one else is looking. I love the definition of integrity being, it's what you do when no one else is looking. And it's interesting because that's really where our faith is tested. How we act when nobody else is looking. What we write down when no one else is looking on the taxes. Because taxes just ended and everybody's always fearful, oh my goodness, taxes. What we say to our spouses when no one else is there to judge us. How we treat our kids, how we parent them when no one else is looking. When everybody is gone and there's just you and there's a computer and what you open and what you view and what you listen to. And when nobody's there and you're falling asleep at night and nobody can read your mind and see what you're imagining, and right there you decide to do the right thing and honor Lord with your thoughts. In all these situations, typically compromise is taking place in the darkness when no one else is looking. But it's interesting to also note here that there's this temptation that's taking place. Note the words, to keep you from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words. And we're going to talk more about that in part 3 of the temptation. But I want to take you back really briefly to Psalms chapter 1, because this young man who's lacking sense, according to the scriptures, goes out again when he perceives that no one is looking, and he goes so close, so near to the forbidden woman that he's playing with fire. He's flirting with sin. He's not going directly there. It doesn't say, and he made his way to her home. And he ran to her home. And he, with joy, pursued her home. It doesn't say anything like that. It says that he was lacking sense. He was passing along, note the words, passing along the street near her corner. There's a house, here's the street, the corner's over there. He's lurking. He's passing along. He's wondering. He's still on the fence. Should I? Should I not? No one's here looking. The temptation is taking place. It's real. But he put himself in this position. He went out there in the darkness. He went close to her home. He knew what he was doing, but he decided to play with fire. You get close enough where it's not intentional. He didn't pursue it. It happened to me. I was tempted. It's not my fault. I failed. I'll try better next time. But in reality, he placed himself in a position for greater failure. He placed himself in a position where he could fall. Could this be avoided? Absolutely. Could this situation be avoided for him? Yes, it could. Are there situations in our lives where we could have avoided being in a place of temptation? Absolutely, 100%. So Psalms chapter 1 comes to mind when reading about this young man because we read, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers." There's this 3 stages that you almost see. Walking in the counsel of the wicked, walking around them. Then he stops, now he's standing. He's standing in the way of sinners. First there's a walking. Then it's a stopping and stand, and you listen, and you partake, and you're a part of. And the third portion that it goes down to is, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. All of a sudden you take a seat among them. You take a seat along the temptation, and you indulge in it. So let's not walk there. Let's not stop to reflect on it. Let's reject it. I found on a personal level, it takes about 3 seconds. I got about 3 seconds to respond to temptation. After that, most of the time I'm toast. 3 seconds. And usually it's going to be in the form of, oh no, I'm done with that. I'm dead to this. I'm a child of God. I'm dead to this. Kill it, destroy it, reject it. The moment we are walking around it and we stop and go indulge it, ooh, I haven't thought about this in a while. I haven't done that in a while. I should reward myself. And there the lies begin. The smooth words begin. They creep in. Relax. Everybody does it. It's okay. Reject it immediately, or now you're in a place of compromise. But look at the beautiful promise of Psalms chapter 1. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. And he is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. Oh, this is so much better. In all that he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so. They are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the ways of the righteous, but the ways of the wicked will perish. The opposite of all this, you have this dark analogy. You have a person walking in darkness. Is taking a step back to Proverbs chapter 6 and verses 22. We have this beautiful view of light instead. For when you walk, they will lead you. These words of wisdom. When you lie down, they will watch over you. When you are awake, they will talk with you. For the commandment is a lamp, and a teaching a light. The contrast is huge. So let's go on to the next portion. It's the temptation. And we kind of began with it because there's this idea of smooth words or soothed words. There's a lie that's kind of being portrayed. Something's being said to us. And I'm going to go ahead and read this passage for us. And behold, the woman meets him, dressed as a prostitute, wily of heart. She is loud and wayward. Her feet do not stay at home. Now in the streets, now in the market, and at every corner she lies in wait. She seizes him and kisses him, and with bold face says to him, I had to offer sacrifices, and today I've paid my vows. So now I have come out to meet you, to seek you eagerly, and I have found you. I have spread my couch with coverings, covered linens from Egyptian linen. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh and aloes and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love till morning. Let us delight ourselves with love, for my husband is not home. He has gone on a long journey. He took a bag of money with him. At full moon, he will come home. With much seductive speech, she persuaded him. With her smooth talk, she compelled him. See, we live in a world of wars, of words, of ideas, of ideologies, of convictions, of theology and such. Whatever you believe is what you will base your life on. What you believe, the words that you trust will become a light to your feet or a darkness to your steps. And in this situation, in the midst of temptation, this person had no arsenal to fight back. The soothing words, smooth talk, the the light of what the temptation's going to bring, the great smells, the feel of Egyptian linen, all these things, all these temptations are all appealing to his senses, and he's going, why not? Absolutely. Let's do it. Let's sin. Let's go indulge together. And with her smooth and seductive speech, she persuades him. She compels him. Now notice, it's not just like, if you want to, let's go. Does sin operate like that? If you want to, it's an option. It sounds a little bit more aggressive. Like you need this. And all of a sudden your flesh begins to just take lead. And your Spirit of God within you takes a back seat. Unless we are proactive with fighting back immediately to temptation. But this person had no ability to fight back. I've noticed that, a great motivational speech or a great quote doesn't help me in the midst of temptation. But what does is good, solid theology. My belief system and what I know about God, what I know about what God has done on the cross, about what God says about me, about the victory that I have in Him. It is these promises of God that guide me in the midst of temptation. Can you relate? Because you're in the midst of it and you go, I'm a child of God. I can't do this. He's called me for greater things. I'm not going to indulge here. God, get me out of this. I want to be with you. I want to walk side by side with you. And then common sense kicks in. Wisdom kicks in. Let's take something like lust and adultery. You stop and you go, why would I indulge in this thought? Why would I view this horrible scenes? What am I doing? I love my wife, and then you start thinking proactively to the future. What if I lost my family? My goodness. What if my children had to grow up with a dad who committed adultery? Like the pain that they'd walk through, they'd be scarred for life. That's a generational impact on how they view marriage and parenting. May God bless every single one of us to have a generational view of how we live our lives. Because we're not just living for ourselves, we're living for our children to bless them. And the enemy wants you to forget about all the consequences. You do you. Do what feels good. That's the lie that's sweeping across the world. You discover yourself. You're not happy in your marriage? Leave. Your kids don't listen to you? Send them off. Let them do whatever they want. Stop fighting for your marriage. Stop fighting for your children. Stop serving people in the local church. They're so difficult. Everybody's so needy. They're like, I don't want to serve. This person said this about me. My feelings are hurt. No. This person can go to hell. Like this mentality of what the enemy tries to tell us it's so broken, it's so dark, it's so sad when the Spirit of God is calling us to say, bless your children generationally. Show them, fathers, show your children what a father is. And mothers likewise. Never give up on your children. Never give up on your marriage. Never stop fighting. You're hurt. Come to the Lord, find comfort, and keep going. Be a servant. Lead, love. We live in a world of temptation, and temptation is a war of words and ideologies and thoughts and ideas. And if you are rooted and you're grounded in your belief in who God is and your theology is good, that will help you counter the smooth words of the adulteress, the smooth words of temptation, the smooth words that are trying to persuade you, appeal to logic, appeal to reason. And they're going to have all sorts of different lies. Can you relate? Has anybody listened to some pretty convincing lies of the enemy? They're really good. Like, this is, wow, self-pity is okay now. This is okay. Like, we just begin allowing so much garbage into our lives because we believe these lies. Today's the day to say goodbye to lies and say hello to the truths of God. Amen? We need to walk in the truths of who God says He is, who God says we are, and what God has accomplished for us and for the church through Jesus Christ on the cross. And the resurrected King, as we talked last week, is resurrecting us. He's resurrecting the dead parts of our lives. He wants to resurrect marriages in this room. He wants to resurrect relationships in this room. He wants to use you to resurrect lives, people who are in bondage and sin. He wants you to give hope to those who are hopeless. He wants you to bless those who need blessings. God wants to use you. Every person in this room, God wants to use you, and God can use you. When you walk, they will lead you. When you lie down, they will watch over you. When you awake, they will talk to you. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching a light. Now these words, this war of words that's taking place, it's a call today. Let's not walk close to it. Let's not flirt with sin. Let's not entertain it. Rather, let's expose it. And one of the most beautiful ways, one of the most powerful ways to destroy sin in our lives is to bring it to light, is to expose it, to talk about it. And I think that there are plenty of testimonies in this room where someone says, man, the moment that I talked to somebody about what I was dealing with, and I had that accountability in my life, and I got that prayer and support, something changed. Something really beautiful changed. I began walking towards freedom. Because we're not meant to do it alone. There's people here who you're really fighting. You're really trying. You want better. You want more. You want more for your family. You want more for your individual spiritual life. You want a greater relationship with the Lord, but you're afraid to open up what's going on, and that leads to walking alone. And it's really lonely. It's really hard. And may God give you the courage to share with someone, to find the family of faith to support you in it. Maybe it's a parent, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's even your children. You just never know who it's going to be that's going to come through, and God's going to provide for you. But in these war of words, there's promises like this from the Lord in Jeremiah 29:11. And I want us to focus on the first portion and then the second portion, because usually we just think of verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you. Anybody know this passage? I know the plans that I have for you. All right? Declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. But listen to this portion. This sounds proactive. Sounds like you're not waiting for goodness to happen to you, but you're pursuing it. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me. When you seek me with all of your heart, I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and bring you back from captivity. Freedom is not something we stumble upon. Joy in the Lord is not something we just wake up to just because we heard a great motivational speech or there's a great song on the radio, all of a sudden you're happy. It's something that's the fruit of the Spirit. It's the fruit of a heart that is pursuing God, just as we've been reading and following in the book of Proverbs here. So the enemy's fighting for your attention. The Lord is fighting for your attention, and the Lord has good in store for you, and the enemy wants to devour and destroy you. He wants to destroy marriages. He wants to destroy relationships. He wants to destroy you on a personal level, cause you to doubt and be in a place of darkness and despair. Because as the deeper you go into darkness and despair, the harder it is to come back up. The way towards sin is always a hill going down. The way towards God always feels like an uphill battle. But as you pursue the Lord in this uphill battle, the joy is real. The freedom is possible. But let that be a warning for every one of us. The way down is really easy to go. It's really easy. It's so much harder to get back up. May God protect our hearts and our minds to not allow us to fall into that downward slope. And the last portion that we have. From verse 22, I'll go ahead and read it. And this is the destruction. All at once, he follows her. He was done. He made his decision. He decided to walk really close to the home. He decided to go when no one else is going to be there to judge him. He decided to go when it was dark and it was secluded. And he decided to walk not directly there, but he placed himself in a position of temptation. And this temptation said, I was looking exactly for you. You're the one I wanted. You're the one I needed. You're the one I want to spend the night with. You're the one I want to commune with. Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to smell like cinnamon. There's going to be Egyptian linens. It's going to be everything you've ever imagined. Your imaginations, all your dreams are going to come true. So convincing, he got ensnared. And then it says, all at once he follows her. But listen, like what? As an ox goes to the slaughter, or as stag is caught fast, till an arrow pierces its liver, as a bird rushes into a snare. He does not know that it will cost him his life. And now, O sons, listen to me and be attentive to the words of my mouth. Do not let your heart turn aside to her ways. Do not stray onto her paths. For many a victim she has laid low, and all her slain are a mighty throng. Her house is the way to Sheol, going down to the chambers of death. That's the destruction. That's the warning. And that's something that the enemy always tries to close our eyes to. Don't think about the end result. Don't think about the conclusion. Enjoy today. Enjoy right now. But when there's something that happens in a person's life, when they begin to kind of like zoom out and look at the bigger piece, the bigger puzzle, oh, okay. Oh, I have these people that in my life that I can influence. I have this calling that I have before the Lord. I have these children that I'm responsible for. I have this beautiful marriage. I made a promise. I made a commitment. Oh, this is good. This is beautiful. I have all these things under me that I need to accomplish. I have this calling in my life. And all of a sudden, like this big view of who you are before the Lord and how you're intertwined with other people, it just challenges temptation. You go, that's cheap. I will never settle for that garbage. That is way too cheap. I heard this guy, he had this analogy, this last one, I know I'm going a little longer than expected, but he had this way of speaking when it comes to temptation, sexual temptation per se. He's like, if a woman comes to me and would flirt with me as a married man, he's like, my thought is, do you hate me? Like, do you hate me? Why would you come to me and you're trying to destroy everything that I've worked for? Are you trying to break my marriage? Are you trying to scar my children? Do you hate me so much that you'd want my destruction? That image of flirting as a married person becomes very real, again, because you see the vast influence that it would have. Do you hate me? A seductive woman hates you, 100%. She wants your destruction. A seductive man wants your destruction. He wants to break everything that God is doing in your life. The destruction, when we keep it before us, it makes sin look so cheap. I don't want this. I got more to live for than this. I got so much goodness before me. God has a plan for my life, and I'm gonna enjoy this life. It's short. It's not heaven on earth, but God has given me this life, and I'm gonna make the most of it. And I'm gonna bless people, and I'm gonna be generous, and I'm gonna be kind, and I'm not gonna be a person of vengeance, and I'm gonna be gracious, and all these things. I'm gonna do what God calls me to do, and I'm gonna just leap into heaven like a deer. This is gonna be good. I'm gonna celebrate here, and I'm gonna celebrate there. But the enemy wants to get you to stop. Your destruction means the destruction of people around you. Let that warning just sink in. Your destruction destroys people around you. Your folly creates folly around you. Look, Jesus, he paid the price so we wouldn't have to. And that's something we get to celebrate right now. We're going to transition to communion. And I'm going to ask my brother to come up, and we're going to be praying over the elements. But before that, I just want to read you these words. Because so far today, we've heard, a lot of more like sad stuff. You got the warning, you got the compromise, you got the temptation, you got the destruction. Everything sounds so dark and gloomy. I even got the red words there, to create the suspense and this warning, stop. Because this is real, this touches our everyday lives. But then we transition to consider the words of like, Jesus paid the price so I wouldn't have to pay the price. Jesus died on the cross so I wouldn't have to die on the cross. Because I can look at my life and I can see failure. Failure there. What about that thing? And you go, God, I'm so imperfect. Please forgive me. And Jesus says, I've paid the price on the cross for your past, present, and future. I love you like a son, God says. God the Father, I love you like a daughter. You are mine. You are mine. And I have given you an inheritance. I have filled you with my spirit. I have begun to work in you. I will not allow anyone to take you. You are mine. I have sealed you with the promise of the Spirit. You are mine. If you can remember these words today and you can just accept that promise today, as the Lord says to you, you are mine. You are my people. You're my special people. You're my bride that I have prepared for myself, and I will come back for you. I am dedicated to you. I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you. My plans for you are greater than the enemy's plans. He wants to destroy you. I want to protect you. And I have made all this possible by the blood that was shed on the cross. Let me read these words in Luke 22. And he took the bread and gave thanks, and he broke it and gave it to them, saying, "This is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you."